The Forbidden Gospel, Unearthing Genesis's Hidden Chapters.
Hold on tight, because what I'm about to reveal might just shatter everything you thought you knew about one of the oldest, most sacred texts on earth. Imagine for a moment that the Bible you hold dear, the one passed down through generations, isn't the complete picture. What if crucial details about the very dawn of creation, the intimate lives of the earliest patriarchs, and even the fundamental laws God himself laid down have been deliberately hidden from us? For centuries, there's been a whisper, a tantalizing rumor of an ancient text, a book so powerful, so revelatory, that it was deemed too dangerous, too controversial for the mainstream world. This isn't just a forgotten scroll. It's a profound, enigmatic puzzle piece that claims to fill in the gaping blanks in our oldest stories, unveiling secret histories and offering a deeper, more cosmic insight into God's divine plan for humanity and the universe itself. This ancient, forbidden knowledge, meticulously preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, is found in a text called the Book of Jubilees. It's been called Little Genesis, but believe me, there's nothing little about its revelations. It challenges our very understanding of time, insists that the calendar most of the world follows is utterly wrong, and claims that angels were involved in the creation of humanity in ways we've barely imagined. So the burning question remains, why was this incredible, mind-bending book banned from most of the Christian world? What explosive secrets does it contain that the early church deemed too hot to handle? You're about to find out. This isn't just a story. It's a journey into the hidden layers of biblical history, a quest for forbidden truths. If you're ready to dive deep into these profound mysteries, hit that like button right now. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single one of our captivating explorations into ancient texts. Now, let's begin this extraordinary tale.
What if I told you that the Bible we all know might be missing crucial details about creation, the lives of the patriarchs, and even the laws of God himself? The Book of Jubilees, meticulously preserved within the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, boldly claims to fill these very gaps, unveiling hidden stories and offering profound insights into God's grand divine plan. But here's the unsettling truth. For centuries, this book has been mysteriously banned from most of the Christian world. Why, you might ask, would such a revealing text be deemed too dangerous for the faithful? In this inaugural chapter, we're embarking on a journey to uncover the enigmatic Book of Jubilees, an ancient text also reverently known as Little Genesis. We'll delve deep into its 50 compelling chapters, seeking to understand the profound reasons behind its exclusion from the mainstream Christian Bible. This venerable text doesn't just offer snippets, it holds a wealth of lost details about the Genesis narrative, providing us with an expansive, cosmic perspective. It unveils how celestial beings, angels, interacted with humanity, how time itself was structured by divine decree, and how hidden commandments, crucial to God's eternal design, were meticulously passed down through generations. The Book of Jubilees isn't content with merely adding footnotes. It fundamentally reshapes our understanding of the very fabric of existence, insisting that the conventional calendar most of the world adheres to is fundamentally flawed, and that time, in its essence, was imbued with a sacred structure by God that precious few truly follow today. Why, then, was this ancient, insightful text so vehemently rejected by the early church? What profound secrets did it harbor that were deemed too controversial, too radical for the burgeoning mainstream Christian faith? The Book of Jubilees commences with a majestic retelling of the creation story, a narrative familiar to us from the Book of Genesis. However, it swiftly transcends the concise accounts found in most Bibles, venturing into an astonishing level of detail that expands our cosmic understanding. According to Jubilees, when God set about creating the world, he didn't merely breathe life into existence in a series of disconnected acts. Instead, he meticulously established the very structure of time itself, aligning it with his perfect, divine order. This is where the concept of sacred time truly comes into play, a notion that distinguishes Jubilees from more conventional interpretations. Unlike the widely adopted traditional calendar that most of humanity adheres to, the Book of Jubilees introduces a precise solar calendar, a marvel of celestial engineering. This calendar, it claims, is not a human invention, but is meticulously overseen by heavenly angels whose celestial duties include governing the intricate cosmic cycles of the universe. This isn't just a matter of counting days or marking seasons. It's about living in perfect, unwavering alignment with the very will of God. It's about a rhythm, a divine pulse that humanity was originally intended to resonate with. Jubilees powerfully asserts that humanity was destined to follow this divine calendar, a system far removed from the lunar irregularities that later pervaded human societies. This divinely ordained calendar, according to the text, consists of precisely 364 days, a number that ensures unwavering consistency. These days are meticulously divided into 4 distinct seasons, each comprising exactly 91 days. This precise, symmetrical structure is paramount, for it ensures that all sacred days, the hallowed Sabbath, and the various holy festivals unfailingly fall on their correct, appointed dates year after year. It is, by all accounts, a perfect system, an embodiment of divine order. Yet it is one that the vast majority of the world has lamentably forgotten, straying from its celestial harmony into temporal disarray. While the Book of Genesis succinctly begins its narrative with the creation of the earth, Jubilees offers an even grander, more expansive cosmic panorama. It reveals that before the terrestrial sphere was even shaped, before light was separated from darkness in its earthly form, angels were created on the very first day of creation. These celestial beings, far from being mere ethereal observers, play an absolutely crucial and active role in the governance of the entire universe. Their responsibilities are vast, encompassing everything from the intricate regulation of time itself to the precise orchestration of the seasons. The Book of Jubilees unveils that these angels were assigned specific, divine duties by God. Some of these celestial overseers are charged with monitoring and guiding natural phenomena, such as the majestic movements of the heavens, the silent dance of stars, planets, and constellations. Others serve as messengers of God's divine decrees, carrying His word to various realms, and as vigilant guardians of God's laws, ensuring that the cosmic order remains undisturbed. This profound idea of angels controlling the heavens is not entirely unique to Jubilees. We find echoes of it in other ancient texts and theological traditions. However, the Book of Jubilees elevates this concept, intensely emphasizing how these angelic beings tirelessly help maintain order in the universe. They are the silent, steadfast orchestrators, ensuring that the sun, moon, and stars meticulously follow their divinely appointed paths. 4. As Jubilees 2:9 eloquently states, "For God ordained that the sun should keep its course according to the divisions of the seasons." These angels are not merely distant observers, they are intimately involved in the very fabric of time. They don't just watch over humanity, they literally control the very flow and structure of time itself. And when humans, through their choices and their forgetfulness, fall out of alignment with this divinely ordered time, the consequences are severe. It leads not merely to minor inconvenience, but to chaos, a powerful central theme that reverberates throughout the entire Book of Jubilees, underscoring the spiritual and cosmic implications of humanity's adherence to, or deviation from, God's sacred temporal design. This ancient text doesn't just describe a different calendar, it paints a vivid picture of a universe where every moment, every cycle is imbued with divine purpose, and where human harmony with that purpose is key to avoiding spiritual and worldly disorder.
One of the most profoundly controversial elements embedded within the Book of Jubilees is its staunch and unwavering insistence that the world, in its entirety, should adhere to a solar calendar, not the lunar calendar that so many ancient cultures, including, significantly, the Israelites themselves, eventually adopted. This isn't a mere calendrical preference. According to Jubilees, the solar calendar is unequivocally the only correct way to measure time. Its correctness is rooted in a divine principle. It aligns perfectly and harmoniously with God's eternal, immutable divine order. The book meticulously explains this sacred system, detailing that the solar year comprises exactly 364 days. These days are then meticulously divided into 52 perfect weeks, ensuring a consistent and predictable rhythm. Each of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter, contains precisely 13 weeks, which translates to exactly 91 days. This flawless system is designed to guarantee that the Sabbath and all other sacred festivals are always, without exception, observed on their correct and divinely appointed days each year. There is no shifting, no irregularity, only perfect cosmic synchronization. What makes this ancient insistence even more compelling is the striking similarity between this solar calendar and the Ethiopian calendar, which remains in active use by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church even today. The Ethiopian year, remarkably, is also divided into 13 months, 12 months of 30 days each, with an additional shorter month called Pagum, consisting of 5 or 6 days to account for the yearly difference. Could it be, as Jubilees suggests, that the Ethiopian calendar is one of the precious few modern systems that still faithfully reflects the sacred time originally described in this ancient, banned text? In stark contrast, the lunar calendar, which regrettably was embraced by numerous cultures in the ancient world, including pivotal groups like the Israelites, is unequivocally seen in Jubilees as a corruption of this divine order. The lunar calendar, with its inherent irregularities, causes months and festivals to drift and shift over time, leading to temporal confusion and spiritual misalignment. Jubilees issues a stern, almost prophetic warning. This deviation from the precise solar calendar inevitably leads to spiritual disorder. The text minces no words, proclaiming, "There will be those who will surely make observations of the moon, but they will disturb the seasons and make an abominable day, the day of testimony." Jubilees 6:37. For the authors and adherents of Jubilees, following the lunar calendar is far more than a simple mistake in calculation. It is in fact engaged in a deeper, more profound revelation, unveiling the hidden significance and cosmic importance behind the very cycles of time that govern all of creation, from the smallest atom to the grandest galaxy. This sacred understanding of time, intricately woven with the Sabbath, forms the bedrock of Jubilees' unique theological perspective, inviting readers to consider a universe governed by a precision and divine purpose far beyond conventional comprehension.
The Book of Jubilees illuminates the narrative of Adam's creation, confirming his emergence on the sixth day, just as described in Genesis. Yet it adds an entirely new, profound layer to his story, one that reshapes our understanding of humanity's earliest moments. According to Jubilees, immediately after fashioning Adam, God didn't leave him to navigate the vastness of creation without guidance. Instead, he bestowed upon him specific commandments right from the very beginning. These were not merely suggestions, but foundational laws, a divine blueprint for human existence, which included the sacred observance of the Sabbath, intricate purity laws governing moral and physical cleanliness, and precise rules concerning marriage and worship. What's truly striking is how these laws were delivered, not directly by a thundering voice from the heavens, but by angels. These celestial messengers were tasked with conveying God's will, and these divine statutes were meant to be faithfully followed by Adam and all his descendants, serving as an integral part of the covenant God made with humanity. While Genesis hints at God's direct interactions with Adam, Jubilees introduces a fascinating intermediary, angelic beings as mediators. These angels, particularly those identified as the angels of the presence, played a crucial role in ensuring that Adam and Eve grasped the full weight and meaning of the laws of holiness, sacrifice, and moral conduct. Their divine instruction was not merely theoretical, it was practical and essential for humanity's early existence. The text vividly paints a scene. "And on the sixth day of the second week, we brought according to the word of God to Adam all the beasts and all the cattle and all the birds and everything that moves on the earth and everything that moves in the water according to their kinds, and according to their kinds the beasts on the first day, and the cattle on the second day, and the birds on the third day, and everything that moves on the earth on the fourth day, and whatever moves in the water on the fifth day." This detailed angelic interaction was profoundly significant. It served to reinforce the fundamental idea that God's law is not merely a human invention or a societal construct, but an inherent, immutable part of the heavenly order. The angels diligently taught Adam that he must observe God's laws as an eternal covenant, precisely as they themselves observed these same divine statutes within the celestial realm. This raises a compelling question, one that challenges conventional theological timelines. Could it be that God's fundamental laws, meticulously passed down through these ethereal angels, were bestowed upon humanity long before Moses ever ascended Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments? And if so, what profound, timeless wisdom might we unearth from these ancient foundational laws that predate the very dawn of organized religion as we know it? The implications are vast, suggesting a deeper, more interconnected cosmic framework for divine revelation. Following the tragic fall of Adam and Eve, an event that reshaped the destiny of humanity, Jubilees add striking new insights into the narrative of their children, Cain and Abel. While Genesis succinctly informs us that Cain murdered Abel, the Book of Jubilees provides a wealth of additional harrowing details about the events that unfurled in the immediate aftermath, painting a far more vivid and somber picture. Cain's heinous act of fratricide is not merely presented as a personal tragedy or a familial dispute, it is unequivocally depicted as the first major breach of God's divine law on earth. This transgression is seen as a sin of immense cosmic gravity, one that leads to profound and far-reaching spiritual consequences for all of humanity, staining the very fabric of early human existence. But even as Cain is justly cast out, bearing the mark of his terrible deed, Jubilees pivots to emphasize a crucial point. The righteous line of humanity does not end with Abel's death or Cain's expulsion. Instead, it continues through Seth, Adam's third son, who emerges as a beacon of hope in divine favor. In Jubilees, Seth is meticulously portrayed as a figure of profound righteousness, a stark contrast to his murderous brother. He's not left to stumble in the dark, instead he is carefully taught to follow the sacred laws handed down by the angels. This divine instruction is paramount, as it meticulously sets the stage for the later descendants of this righteous lineage, including the pivotal figure of Noah, to steadfastly continue the covenant with God. This continuous thread of righteousness, maintained through divine guidance and strict adherence to celestial laws, is a central theme in Jubilees, distinguishing it from the more focused narrative of Genesis, by weaving a complex tapestry of cosmic order and humanity's evolving relationship with the divine. It suggests that even in the face of profound sin, God's plan for a righteous lineage remained unbroken, meticulously guided by his heavenly hosts.
The story of Noah and the devastating flood is, of course, well known to us from the Book of Genesis, a foundational narrative of divine judgment and renewal. However, the Book of Jubilees unfolds additional, compelling revelations about the profound events that transpired both before and after this great deluge. In Jubilees, the focus extends far beyond Noah's mere survival. It zeroes in on the covenant God meticulously establishes with him afterward. This covenant is imbued with immense significance, powerfully emphasizing the timeless importance of purity, righteousness, and the unwavering observance of God's laws. It's a testament to the enduring principles that must govern humanity's interaction with the divine. Before the cataclysmic flood, Jubilees delves even deeper into the pervasive corruption of the earth, shedding a disturbing light on the true extent of humanity's degradation. It particularly sharpens its focus on the Nephilim, the monstrous offspring resulting from the forbidden unions of fallen angels and human women. While Genesis 6:1-4 briefly, almost cryptically, mentions the Nephilim, Jubilees provides a far more extensive and harrowing context. It reveals in vivid detail how these towering giants not only contributed, but actively exacerbated the widespread wickedness that ultimately compelled God to cleanse the earth with the flood. The depravity was not merely human in origin, it was a cosmic intertwining of earthly sin and celestial transgression. The text paints a grim picture. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way like men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other. Jubilees 5:2. This profound moral decay, Jubilees argues, wasn't solely attributable to human sinfulness. It was tragically amplified by the insidious influence of fallen angels who, having abandoned their divine stations, introduced forbidden knowledge and systematically corrupted the natural order of creation. God's response, as detailed in Jubilees, is swift and absolute. He sends the flood not just as a punishment, but as a surgical intervention to wipe out this deep-seated corruption. Yet, in his boundless mercy and unwavering commitment to his divine plan, he meticulously preserves Noah and his family because of their righteousness, a stark contrast to the overwhelming wickedness that consumed the rest of the world. Following the subsiding of the floodwaters, Jubilees unveils that God did more than simply promise never to flood the earth again, a familiar promise from Genesis. He also established a new covenant with Noah, a covenant far more detailed and prescriptive than previously understood. This renewed pact included specific laws of purity and sacrifice, rituals and regulations designed to guide humanity back onto the path of righteousness. These laws, which would later be passed down to the Israelites and formalized in the Mosaic Law, were intended to help humanity maintain holiness and avoid the pervasive corruption that had led to the devastating flood in the first place. One crucial detail unique to Jubilees is the revelation that Noah was explicitly instructed to observe the Sabbath and to faithfully follow the very same laws given to Adam concerning sacrifice and purity. This continuity is significant, highlighting a timeless thread of divine expectation. This covenant therefore marked a true new beginning for humanity, a fresh start after the cataclysm. But it also profoundly emphasized the paramount importance of remaining obedient to God's laws to prevent any further divine judgment. The laws of sacrifice, which would later become a cornerstone of the Mosaic Law, were already being diligently followed by Noah as an integral part of this foundational covenant. These ancient laws included meticulous instructions on how to offer burnt offerings to God, and, equally important, how to remain pure in both body and spirit. Thus, Jubilees paints a picture of a post-delusion world where divine law was re-established, guiding Noah and his descendants towards a life of holiness and continued covenant with their Creator. In Genesis 12, we are first introduced to the pivotal figure of Abraham, when God issues his momentous call for him to leave his homeland and journey to Canaan. This is a familiar and cherished narrative of faith and obedience. However, Jubilees transports us even further back in time, delving into Abraham's youth and adding an entirely new, astonishing dimension to his already epic story. According to Jubilees, Abraham didn't grow up in a vacuum of faith. He was raised within a family deeply steeped in idolatry. His own father, Terah, was not a worshiper of the one true God, but instead devoutly worshipped false gods. This stark detail, notably absent from Genesis, is painted with vivid, almost shocking clarity in Jubilees. It portrays a young Abraham as a solitary figure of unwavering conviction, a nascent revolutionary who, from an early age, rejects the pagan practices that permeated his home and society. Instead of conforming, he makes a conscious, courageous choice to follow the one true God, a radical act of faith in a world consumed by polytheism. The text describes Abraham's decisive break from his idolatrous heritage with powerful imagery. And he said, "My father, tell me, what is this idol you worship?" And Abraham saw that it was an image of stone, and Abraham burned them before the eyes of all and fled into the wilderness. Jubilees 11:16-17. While Genesis primarily focuses on Abraham's obedience to God's direct call to leave his home, Jubilees presents him as a revolutionary spiritual figure, a man who, in a breathtaking act of defiance, destroys the very idols in his father's house. This wasn't a quiet departure. It was a bold, public stand against the prevailing idolatry of his time, an act of profound conviction. This act of spiritual rebellion, occurring long before his famous journey to Canaan, meticulously sets the stage for Abraham's later monumental role as the father of the chosen people, a lineage destined to unequivocally reject pagan practices and steadfastly follow the eternal laws of God. It paints Abraham not merely as a recipient of divine command, but as an active, early participant in the cosmic struggle against false worship, making his journey of faith even more compelling and revolutionary.
One of the most striking and profound differences between the conventional narrative of Genesis and the revelations of the Book of Jubilees lies in the groundbreaking idea that Abraham diligently followed divine laws long before Moses was ever born. In Genesis, while Abraham is depicted as a man of great faith, there's no specific mention of him being given a comprehensive set of laws beyond the foundational covenant of circumcision in Genesis 17. However, Jubilees boldly presents Abraham as a figure who was already deeply observant, meticulously keeping the Sabbath, faithfully performing sacrifices, and adhering to many other sacred laws that we typically associate with the later Mosaic Law. This radical perspective suggests that these laws were not newly invented or revealed during Moses' time. Instead, Jubilees argues, they were ancient, eternal precepts, meticulously passed down from the angels to the patriarchs, beginning with Adam himself. Abraham, in this expanded narrative, received these crucial commandments directly from angels, and he was explicitly expected to follow them as an intrinsic part of his covenant relationship with God. The text underscores this angelic guidance, and he was taught by the angels concerning the things written in the tablets of heaven, Jubilees 12:25. Unlike Genesis, where Abraham's actions are often framed as an intensely personal journey of faith, Jubilees elevates him to a cosmic participant, presenting him as someone intimately connected to a larger, preordained cosmic plan. He is not merely guided by his own conscience or direct divine promptings. He is meticulously guided by angels, and the laws he so diligently follows are an integral component of a sweeping divine order that governs both the celestial realm of heaven and the terrestrial realm of earth. These ancient laws, the book clarifies, encompass the sacred Sabbath observance and various purity laws, principles that Moses would later formalize and codify for the nation of Israel. Thus, Jubilees paints Abraham as a figure whose life was not just a personal testament of faith, but a foundational pillar in the unfolding of God's universal and eternal legal framework. The covenant of circumcision stands as one of the most monumentally important moments in Abraham's sprawling story. In Genesis 17, God's command to Abraham to circumcise himself and all the males in his household as a palpable sign of the covenant is presented as a direct divine instruction. Yet Jubilees deepens this profound act, revealing that this was not merely a symbolic gesture for Abraham and his descendants. Instead, it was an intrinsic part of a sweeping cosmic law, a divine decree that had been meticulously written on the heavenly tablets from the dawn of creation. According to Jubilees, circumcision wasn't a new requirement specific to Abraham's lineage. It was a divine law that had been in existence since the creation of the world itself. This eternal covenant, the text reveals, was intrinsically inscribed on the heavenly tablets, which are portrayed as God's ultimate blueprint for creation, encompassing all the laws that govern both the celestial beings, angels, and terrestrial humanity. The gravity of this law is emphasized. And this law is for all generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days and no passing over 1 day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 15:25. While Genesis rightly focuses on Abraham's profound obedience to God's command, Jubilees elevates this act into something far grander. It portrays circumcision as an alignment with a much larger divine order, a physical manifestation of adherence to the cosmic laws that meticulously govern the entire universe. It's a spiritual act, binding the physical body to the eternal, immutable will of the divine. The compelling and intensely dramatic story of the binding of Isaac, famously known as the Akedah, is undeniably one of the most powerful and testing moments recounted in Genesis, Genesis 22:1-19. Here, God, in a profound test of faith, asks Abraham to sacrifice his beloved son Isaac. Jubilees retells this pivotal narrative, yet it significantly enriches it with several additional breathtaking layers of spiritual complexity. In Jubilees, the trial of Abraham is not merely an intimate, isolated exchange between a man and his God. It is intricately woven into a larger, more expansive spiritual warfare. According to this ancient text, the malevolent angel Mastema, a figure often unsettlingly associated with Satan himself, is the one who suggests this harrowing test to God, his insidious hope being that Abraham would inevitably fail, thus undermining God's chosen one. Mastema, in this narrative, represents the relentless forces of evil, perpetually seeking to corrupt and undermine the righteous, aiming to cause their downfall. The Book of Jubilees further adds a crucial detail. Angels intervene during the binding, not just to stop Abraham's hand, but to reveal a deeper purpose. God allowed this agonizing test precisely to demonstrate to all, both heavenly and earthly beings, that Abraham's faith was far greater than the temptations of evil, a triumph of devotion over insidious influence. The text captures this divine oversight. "And I stood before him and before the prince of Mastema, and the Lord said, Command him not to lay his hand on the lad, nor to do anything to him, for I have shown that he fears the Lord." This version of the story in Jubilees introduces a whole new level of spiritual significance. It transforms the Akedah from merely a test of Abraham's personal obedience into an integral part of a vast cosmic battle between good and evil. Mastema, the embodiment of sinister forces, actively tries to lead Abraham into failure, but God's timely and powerful intervention, orchestrated through his angels, unequivocally demonstrates that faithfulness will always triumph over evil. Thus, while Genesis focuses on Abraham's intensely personal ordeal, Jubilees embeds it within a grander spiritual narrative that encompasses active angelic forces and the eternal relentless struggle between good and evil, lending the story even more profound and universal resonance.
In Genesis 25:23, we are granted a glimpse into the predetermined destinies of Jacob and Esau even before their birth, as God reveals to their mother, Rebekah, that the two brothers would become the progenitors of two distinct nations and, astonishingly, that the older, Esau, would ultimately serve the younger, Jacob. Jubilees takes this prophecy and expands upon it with breathtaking detail, emphasizing that this was no mere family feud or arbitrary preference. Instead, it was an integral part of a profound cosmic design, a divine orchestration in which Jacob was always destined to inherit the blessing and meticulously continue the sacred line of righteousness that began with Abraham. Jubilees introduces a powerful layer of predestination, revealing that Jacob was divinely chosen from birth to carry on the covenant, while Esau, conversely, was destined to stray from God's meticulously laid plan. The book even notes that Isaac and Rebekah were endowed with divine knowledge concerning Esau's inherently rebellious nature and the future opposition of his descendants to Israel, foreshadowing centuries of conflict. "And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations shall be divided from your womb, and 1 nation shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger." Jubilees 19:13. While Genesis depicts the struggle unfolding through Jacob's cunning and Esau's impulsiveness, Jubilees clarifies that Jacob was always meant to inherit the birthright, and that his actions, though at times deceptive, were part of fulfilling a preordained divine plan. One of the key distinctions in Jubilees is the more expansive and complex portrayal of Esau, elevating him beyond simply a brother who loses his birthright. Jubilees emphatically highlights that Esau represents an entire line of rebellion against God's chosen people. His descendants, the Edomites, are not just a separate people. They are powerfully portrayed as a nation that will relentlessly rise in opposition to Israel, thereby fulfilling the ancient prophecy that the elder would serve the younger. While Genesis mentions the hostility between Jacob and Esau after the birthright and blessing incidents, Genesis 27:41, Jubilees significantly expands upon this theme, showing in vivid detail how Esau's descendants would become a nation that directly and perpetually opposes Jacob's line, the future Israelites. The struggle is consistently framed within the larger cosmic conflict that Jubilees frequently emphasizes, the eternal battle between righteousness, Jacob or Israel, and rebellion, Esau or Edom. The text states, "And Esau took his wives and his sons and all that he had, and he went up to the hill country of Seir and lived there. And Esau became a nation, and they oppressed Jacob's descendants." Jubilees makes it unequivocally clear that Esau's rebellion was not merely personal, but had profound national implications. His descendants, the Edomites, would embark on numerous conflicts with the Israelites, a reflection of the deeper spiritual battle that originated with their forefathers. One of the most profoundly significant moments in Jacob's life unfolds when he receives the blessing from his father Isaac. In Genesis, this blessing is crucial, ensuring that Jacob becomes the revered father of the 12 tribes of Israel, Genesis 27. But Jubilees pushes this narrative even further, emphasizing that Jacob was not just given a personal blessing, but he was also entrusted with a direct continuation of the divine laws that had been meticulously passed down from Abraham. According to Jubilees, after Jacob receives this pivotal blessing, God and the angels reveal to him a comprehensive set of laws that he and his descendants must faithfully follow. These sacred directives include the meticulous observance of the Sabbath, strict purity laws, and the precise adherence to the sacred calendar, laws that would later be formalized and codified in the Mosaic Law. Jacob, in this expanded account, is portrayed not merely as a recipient, but as the keeper of these laws, explicitly tasked with ensuring that his descendants, the future Israelites, diligently follow them as an intrinsic part of their covenant relationship with God. The text emphasizes this divine instruction. "And the Lord appeared to him by night and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon you are sleeping I give to you and your seed shall be as the stars of heaven." Jubilees 27:23. In Jubilees, the laws that Jacob receives are intricately woven into the cosmic order that profoundly governs both heaven and earth. This strong emphasis on Jacob as the inheritor of divine law elevates his role far beyond merely receiving a birthright. He becomes the venerable custodian of God's eternal commandments, directly linking him to the heavenly tablets mentioned earlier in Jubilees, solidifying his pivotal place in the unfolding divine plan. Jubilees' narrative doesn't merely conclude with the rivalry between Jacob and Esau. It boldly expands this initial conflict into a profound prophetic vision of the ongoing struggle that would perpetually define their descendants. The book powerfully suggests that the nations arising from Esau would continually and relentlessly oppose Jacob's descendants, the Israelites, throughout history. This goes far beyond the personal feud of two brothers, tying into the profound idea of a larger spiritual battle between righteousness, Jacob or Israel, and rebellion, Esau or Edom. In Jubilees, this prophetic struggle isn't just about territorial conflict or political power plays. It's explicitly framed as an integral part of the greater cosmic war between the forces of good and evil. Esau's lineage in this context represents those nations that are destined to become enduring enemies of God's chosen people, and this inherent tension, Jubilees reveals, continues to reverberate throughout biblical history, shaping events and destinies. The text recounts, "And Jacob and his sons came down into Egypt to Joseph, and Esau's sons remained in the land of Edom, and from that day the enmity between the nations remained." This compelling vision of an ongoing spiritual struggle powerfully reflects the broader, overarching themes of Jubilees, where the stories of the patriarchs are not isolated biographical accounts, but are meticulously presented as part of a much larger, intricate cosmic plan. It's a plan that involves not only the immediate family of Abraham, but extends to encompass the destinies of nations and the ultimate, climactic battle between good and evil, weaving a grand tapestry of divine providence and human history. In the book of Genesis, we witness the foundational birth of Jacob's 12 sons through his wives Leah and Rachel, and their maidservants. These 12 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin, are destined to become the revered heads of the tribes of Israel. However, Jubilees adds a remarkable layer of divine order to the seemingly natural births of these sons, revealing that their births were not merely the result of human relationships or biological chance. Instead, they were an integral part of a predetermined plan set by God. According to Jubilees, the precise timing and sequence of these births were meticulously ordained by God to align perfectly with the sacred calendar. The text emphasizes that each son was born in strict accordance with the divine schedule, thereby making their births a crucial component of the larger cosmic plan. The text powerfully states, "And Jacob's wives and maidservants gave birth to his 12 sons, each according to the times set by the Lord, and their destinies were written on the heavenly tablets." While Genesis focuses on the narrative events surrounding the births of these pivotal figures, Jubilees profoundly stresses that their births had been meticulously written in the heavenly tablets from eternity. This powerful detail reinforces the overarching idea that the 12 tribes were a predestined part of God's eternal plan for the world, not an outcome of chance, but a deliberate act of divine forethought, ensuring their integral role in the unfolding of sacred history. One of the truly significant and morally complex moments recounted in Genesis is the story of Reuben, Jacob's eldest son, who tragically loses his status as the firstborn after committing a grave and morally reprehensible sin, Genesis 35:22. Jubilees takes this pivotal event and profoundly expands upon it, emphasizing its far-reaching spiritual consequences and meticulously explaining why Judah and Levi rise to prominence in his place, reshaping the future leadership of Israel. In Jubilees, Reuben's sin is not merely framed as a personal failing or a moment of weakness. It is unequivocally presented as a profound violation of the divine laws that had been established long before his actions. His transgression is therefore not just a private mistake, but a spiritual transgression of cosmic significance, an act that irrevocably disqualifies him from leading the tribes. This disqualification, divinely ordained, then allows for Judah, the fourth son, to emerge as the destined tribal leader, demonstrating a divine preference for his lineage. Simultaneously, Levi is specifically chosen and set apart to assume the sacred and eternal role of priesthood, which Jubilees explicitly states is an intrinsic part of the divine order set by God from the beginning. The text emphasizes this divine instruction. Because of his sin, the firstborn Reuben was not reckoned in the inheritance, but Judah was chosen as the prince over his brothers, and Levi for the priesthood forever. While Genesis concisely mentions Reuben's disqualification, Jubilees places a far stronger, almost overwhelming emphasis on how this event aligns and fulfills the cosmic plan. Judah's inexperiment rise to leadership is presented not as merely a stroke of luck, but as a direct consequence of God's eternal law, and Levi's separation for the priesthood is likewise connected to this grand unfolding spiritual framework that governs Israel's future, demonstrating a meticulous divine hand guiding the destiny of the chosen people.
In the biblical narrative, the tribe of Levi is explicitly and uniquely set apart for the priesthood, with the iconic figures of Moses and Aaron famously descending from this lineage, Exodus 28. However, in Jubilees, the sacred role of Levi as the priestly tribe is framed within an even grander, more ancient context. It is presented as part of an eternal mandate. The book forcefully emphasizes that Levi's priesthood was not simply a matter of tribal duty or a historical development under Moses. It was meticulously established in the heavenly tablets long before the Levitical priesthood was formally instituted under Mosaic law. According to Jubilees, Levi was personally chosen by God to serve as the spiritual leader of the tribes, entrusted with the immense responsibility of ensuring that the divine laws were diligently observed. His priestly role is thus described as an integral component of the cosmic order, and he is endowed with special responsibilities that profoundly connect heaven and earth. The text declares, "And Levi was set apart for the priesthood for forever, to offer sacrifices and to mediate between the people and the Lord, for it was ordained on the heavenly tablets." Jubilees 32:17. While Genesis and Exodus rightly focus on the establishment and function of the Levitical priesthood during Moses' time, Jubilees strikingly emphasizes that Levi's unique and sacred role was an inherent part of God's plan from the very beginning of creation. This makes Levi's priesthood not merely a response to specific historical circumstances, but an absolutely essential element of the cosmic order that predates the events at Mount Sinai, solidifying its timeless and universal significance. In Genesis, Jacob's 12 sons proceed to become the esteemed heads of the 12 tribes. and their collective journeys unfold as they eventually settle in the Promised Land. However, in Jubilees, these tribes are not merely passive inheritors of territory. They are profoundly portrayed as guardians of God's law, entrusted with the solemn task of upholding the divine commandments meticulously passed down from Abraham and Isaac. According to Jubilees, each tribe carries a specific, sacred spiritual responsibility and is explicitly expected to faithfully follow the laws inscribed on the heavenly tablets. The text solemnly states, "And the Lord said unto Jacob, These are the laws for your sons and their descendants forever, written on the heavenly tablets, that they may walk in them and live." Jubilees 29:6. While Genesis tells us that Jacob's sons became the heads of tribes, Jubilees adds the crucial detail that they were also directly entrusted with ensuring that the laws of God were carefully passed down to future generations. Each tribe, therefore, plays a profound cosmic role in preserving the divine order, intimately connecting their actions to the enduring spiritual destiny of Israel. In Genesis, the narrative of Joseph takes a dark turn as his brothers, driven by intense jealousy over their father's favoritism, cruelly sell him into slavery. Genesis 37. However, Jubilees takes this distressing event and frames it within a much larger context of cosmic consequences. According to Jubilees, the brothers' act of betrayal is not merely a family dispute, albeit a grave one. It is presented as a serious transgression against the divine order. And their guilt, the text implies, extends far beyond what is depicted in Genesis, carrying weight in the celestial realms. In Jubilees, the act of selling Joseph is explicitly described as a great sin against God's heavenly law. And the brothers are issued a dire warning: they will face divine punishment for their actions unless they genuinely repent. This is a key difference from Genesis, where the focus leans more towards the brothers' personal jealousy and the gnawing guilt they later experience. In Jubilees, the brothers' actions ripple with cosmic implications. Their betrayal directly disrupts the divine plan and places them squarely under God's judgment. The text powerfully states, "And his brothers sold Joseph into slavery, and their sin was recorded on the heavenly tablets. For they had transgressed the eternal laws, and it was decreed that their descendants would suffer until they repented for their great sin." Jubilees 34:4-9. This forceful emphasis on the heavenly tablets makes their sin an integral part of a larger cosmic order, directly linking the brothers' actions to the future suffering of Israel under Egyptian bondage. Their profound betrayal, therefore, paradoxically sets the stage for God's intricate plan to redeem the nation of Israel through the Exodus, a deliverance that was, according to Jubilees, already meticulously foretold in the heavenly realm. In Genesis, Joseph's rise to power in Egypt is largely portrayed as a testament to his innate wisdom, his remarkable administrative abilities, and his divine gift for interpreting dreams. However, Jubilees significantly expands upon this, explaining that Joseph's ascent was not merely a matter of personal talent or fortuitous circumstances. It was an integral part of a larger divine plan, meticulously written on the heavenly tablets. His unparalleled success in Egypt was not just because of his exceptional abilities, it was because God had precisely preordained his crucial role as a savior for the Israelites. Jubilees profoundly emphasizes that Joseph's meteoric rise to power was a fundamental component of the heavenly design, meticulously intended to create the very circumstances that would ultimately lead to the monumental Exodus. It was Joseph's undeniable destiny to bring his entire family to Egypt, where, as foretold, they would eventually become enslaved, only to be miraculously delivered through God's awe-inspiring intervention. The text explicitly states, "And it was written on the heavenly tablets that Joseph would rule over Egypt, and through him the sons of Israel would be saved from famine. But they would also be bound in Egypt for a time." Jubilees 42:2. In this profound way, Joseph's life is portrayed as a cosmic event, with his rise to power serving a much larger divine purpose in God's intricate plan for Israel's deliverance. Jubilees directly connects Joseph's extraordinary success not to mere luck or human ingenuity, but to the heavenly order, showing that it was meticulously foreordained from eternity.
One of the most intriguing and illuminating additions found in Jubilees is the profound and consistent involvement of angels in Joseph's life. While Genesis portrays Joseph as having a close, personal relationship with God, often manifested through his vivid dreams, Jubilees goes significantly further by introducing the constant and crucial role of angels in guiding and protecting Joseph throughout his tumultuous journey. Jubilees vividly describes how angels were expressly sent by God to watch over Joseph from the very moment he was cruelly sold into slavery, meticulously ensuring that he would faithfully fulfill his divinely appointed destiny in Egypt. These celestial beings are depicted as actively intervening at pivotal moments in Joseph's life, shielding him from harm, subtly influencing events, and meticulously ensuring that he remains steadfast and faithful to God's will, even in the most trying circumstances. The text beautifully illustrates this divine guardianship. And the Lord sent his angels to guard Joseph on his journey to Egypt, that he might not perish, for his life was precious in the eyes of the Lord, and his path had been written in the heavenly tablets. This compelling detail about the angels' involvement adds a powerful layer of spiritual protection and cosmic oversight to Joseph's story that is notably less explicit in Genesis. It powerfully demonstrates that Joseph's journey was not merely a series of fortunate coincidences or human resilience. His path was, in fact, meticulously orchestrated by God, with his heavenly angels actively ensuring that he would rise to power and ultimately fulfill his sacred purpose of saving his family, thereby advancing God's grand narrative of redemption. One of the most significant differences between Genesis and Jubilees emerges in how Joseph's life is intimately connected to the Exodus. In Genesis, Joseph's pivotal role largely concludes with his family's settlement in Egypt. However, in Jubilees, his entire life is powerfully portrayed as prophetic, meticulously foreshadowing the future enslavement and eventual miraculous deliverance of the Israelites. According to Jubilees, Joseph's ascent to power in Egypt was not merely about saving his family from famine, it was also about fulfilling a profound prophecy that would directly lead to the Exodus. Jubilees explicitly explains that Joseph was acutely aware of the future bondage of his descendants in Egypt and, remarkably, that he played a deliberate role in preparing them for their eventual deliverance. He possessed a divine foresight that allowed him to see beyond his own life into the destiny of his people. The text captures Joseph's prophetic insight. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I will die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Fear not, for these things have been written and sealed on the heavenly tablets." This pronounced prophetic element is not as prominent in Genesis, where Joseph's death is largely portrayed as the culmination of his earthly story. In Jubilees, however, Joseph's death is viewed as a transition, the solemn beginning of Israel's enslavement, but simultaneously a prophetic promise that they would, without a doubt, eventually be miraculously delivered from Egypt. This profound connection directly ties Joseph's life into the overarching cosmic plan of redemption, a plan that would ultimately be fulfilled through the monumental event of the Exodus, making his personal journey an essential preamble to the national saga of Israel's liberation.